Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to play around on the forge. Had been a while since I fired it up, so stick with me here, guys. We're just going to make one simple little tool to actually use with the forge itself. So just stick around and see how it turns out. Okay, guys, this is my basic setup here. I'll bring you in a little more close, get some more details. All right. So we got us a hair dryer for bellows. And that's going to be for a quench, just a simple, cheap dollar store. I think it's a 5-quart pot. That's all we're going to need hammer wise. Just got a nice cross beam hammer. Little torch help us get our fire going. Got our anvil on an oak stump. Definitely going to need some leather gloves. And we're just going to be using some very simple basic charcoal. So I'll start getting this set up, guys, and I'll get right back to you. Okay, nothing too crazy. We'll throw some easily burnable material in the bottom first. Got some of this really thin piece of oak left over from some of my tests we've done for the outhouse reviews. We'll get that in there too. All right, now we'll get some charcoal. Now, traditional forge setup, use like coke, which definitely is far superior than what I'm using. But as far as cost and accessibility, this does work just fine. I've used it for many years. That's a pretty old charcoal too. It's been sitting in that bag for a while, and it's been outside on the porch for a while too. So we may have to do a little extra to encourage it to do its thing. Actually, we'll go ahead and hit that with the torch too, just to help try to get some of this going. I'll tend to focus on just about maybe 2 or 3 pieces of a coal. It going real good, and then I can use that for basically my base, if you will. All right, I think I got some down there going. Now I'm just running that hair dryer on low. Try to get some air up through there, which will encourage our coal. I think I may actually plug my hole off with some of that. There we go. All right, so We'll let that go for just a few minutes, guys, and I'll get right back to you here. All right, we got a piece of rebar in there getting hot. And what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be making basically a coal raker. So this is going to be a pretty quick, simple, easy job, pretty basic kind of blacksmithing kind of tool to make. So once we get that thing hot enough to take to the hammer and the anvil, we'll get right back to y'all. While our steel was heating up, just a quick tip to help anybody out if you're starting in blacksmithing. Adjust the height of the top of your anvil. Put your hammer flat, and you want it to where your arm is fairly well locked down straight. So that way you're kind of stopping at the end of your stroke with your arms relatively locked out. And what that'll do for you, that'll allow you to use most of your hammer's weight and not so much your shoulders. It's pretty much going to turn it into, for the most part, a straight up and down. So I'll give you optimal swing without using a whole lot of extra strength when you don't have to. So that could help somebody, just starting out. Because now she's getting pretty well took off. I don't know how well it'll show up on the camera because we got the sunlight, but she's getting mighty hot down in there. All right, now I'm going to spin slightly, just spinning this a little bit. That way it'll help kind of even out the heat. So one side don't get like totally toasted. Don't want to go super long outside the heat, because once it starts going down, you keep hitting with the hammer, you'll start putting some serious stress fractures in your metal. You got to keep in mind too, my anvil was a lot colder than the forge fire, so the second that steel touches this anvil, it's a big heat sink. roughly got that. I want a thinner on the bottom end. Just keep in mind, I'm right-handed, so I'm actually going to be holding this thing like this. So I want my swoop up that way, and I want this to have a little bit of a catch at the bottom. So now is the time to go over, look at, make sure we've got it shaped the way we wanted it. And I'm good with that. If anything, it may be a little short on the length, but being I'm dealing with my smaller portable forge, yeah, I think it should be okay. Now, as far as this tip goes, we can work on the quench, which ain't too important for this particular tool and what its job is, but we'll go ahead and do a simple quench. That way you guys kind of get an idea what it looks and sounds like. Alright, now as we're getting heated up here, now this is rebar. It's a very mild steel, has very little carbon in it. Now the trick is, now this is just plain old water and it's fairly cool. So the hotter the metal, when we stick it in a colder medium, we have a higher chance of actually causing a stress fracture or a complete break. So I'm going to pull that out. And since I don't need a super hard temper, I'm just going to wave it around in the air for a little bit. Now this is a lot handier if you have an enclosed forge. That way you can actually see it's darker. You can see the color of the steel. I'd want a fairly light orangish glow from this steel before I'd quench it. So I'm just going to have to go off experience here. I'd say that's about right. Put it in just a little bit, take it back out. There we go. Not much of a hiss on that one. Okay. Now she's in there. So now I just leave it in there for a couple minutes, get nice and good and cooled off. That way, if you want to grab it and check in the end that you just hammered out, you don't burn yourself. Okay. Now, real simple. This tool is literally just so I can take my coals, get in there and just pile them up real easy. Now, if we want, we can embellish the other end of this thing. We can extend this out, draw it out, maybe make a wrap or something. So, put her back in the fire. Now, what we're going to do here is just going to be a little different. We're going to turn the work as we're hammering, because we want to draw it out, not so much flatten it. That way we can keep that round shape. And what this will do, it'll thin out the steel and it'll actually draw it out. And I'm going to work on this first about ½ inch, get it tapered the way I want it. Then I'll come back about another ½ inch, hammer it out. Also, keep in mind, as this steel gets thinner, it's going to take less heat to get it up to temperature to hammer it back. So you don't want to be too careful, or you want to be careful and not allow it to overheat in the forge, or it will actually melt the steel right in half. And sometimes you get your heat just right when you're hammer forging. You don't need to, just absolutely go gung-ho on it. I said you can kind of let the hammer weight do the job. putting just a little simple crook in this thing. Gotta keep her good and hot, because we're gonna be putting a lot of stress on that steel. All right, just basic, simple, just something to catch the back of my hand with. Now, let's see if power. I want to turn it. Let's get her hot again. So I want to turn that a little bit. Boom. Ooh, she's hot. Try to get some fresh coals up in there. Alright, that will do. I'm just going to let her turn that off. Let her get a little cool. Now guys, here she is. Not super fancy, but it'll work. That's all I need to rake coals with. I got a little way I can drop a little nail on the stump, hang it right up there. But hopefully that was educational for you all, and if you enjoyed it, please like the video. If you were willing to support the channel, check the link. I have Buy Me a Coffee. There'll be some extra content that's not going to be posted on YouTube. I'll post there. I'll be making other items in the forge. You get a chance to win those items if you become a member. In that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in another video.